I've been enjoying this study, book of Jonah today, and it's sad that I have to bring it to an end. We have to be done with it, but right, today is the end. And next week, I don't know what we'll talk about yet. I haven't made up my mind. I have some ideas, but I haven't made a real decision yet. So pray for me this week that God will lead me so that I can teach us what we all need and focus on that. So we've been talking about Jonah, and I sign it like this as Jonah and the whale. And we've been talking about his story. One thing that you might have noticed about Jonah is what? He's often angry. Yes, he is angry often. And what was his job? What was his profession? He was a prophet. Like a preacher. That was his job. That was his job, was to act like a preacher, to spread God's word to the Jewish people. And his prophets would be Jews who, and so God was telling this Jewish prophet to go to Nineveh. And Jonah rebelled against God and said no. He went the other way. Why? He wanted them to be destroyed for their sin. He didn't want to see God forgive them and have mercy on them. He didn't want that because he hated those people. And so he left and went the other way. And we know the story. They took Jonah and cast him forth into the sea. And the men feared the Lord exceedingly, and their hearts changed, and they began to worship the Lord. And the Lord prepared a great fish, or a whale, we can say it's a whale, to swallow up Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. So, what happened after that? Before he was vomited up from the fish, he prayed. And what was his prayer? He surrendered. He humbled himself. And he cried out to God, "Save me." He said, "I know you will hear my prayer. And I confess that I will pay what I owe." Salvation is from the Lord. That's a great sentence. Salvation is from the Lord, yes. And only in the Lord can we have salvation. And Jonah knew that. So, remember why you're in the situation you were in. You're never too far away from God for him not to hear you. Only God has the power to raise you up. And finally, help comes from humility. You have to be humble. If you're proud, God will continue to resist you. He resisteth the proud, but giveth grace to the humble. So Jonah was vomited up from the whale, and he went to preach. And what did he preach? Change? No. He didn't preach change. He didn't say anything about change. God is going to destroy you. You're terrible people. You're sinners. And he's warning them that God is going to destroy them. And what did the people do? They were afraid. Is that all? What else did they do? They prayed and asked God to forgive them. They put on sackcloth and humbled themselves, yes. It's itchy because they wanted to show their humility and accept the suffering. It's like when my sin has so upset me and bothers me that I'm suffering from it. Nineveh. I'll show you a picture on the map in just a moment. And God saw what? What was God's response? Was he still angry? Did he destroy them? He had mercy and forgave them. So he held back what he was going to do. Was Jonah happy about that? He was very, very unhappy. He was very angry. Why was he angry? He said, I knew you were going to have mercy on them. I knew it. That's why I ran away. I didn't want to go there because I knew you were going to have mercy on them. And he was angry at God. Jonah was angry and pouting. He went out of the city and sat on the east side of the city to see what would happen. And that's where we stopped last week. So now, the title today is The Preacher's Pity. And instead of signing it as merciful, I might sign it more like this. Say, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sad. And so we'll discuss about what pity means later on when you see the word, okay? So, where was Jonah here? He was in his booth. And where was that? Here's Jerusalem. So Nineveh is up here. Here's the river on the west side. And the east side is where Jonah went to sit on the hill and watch to see what was going to happen to Nineveh. To see whether God would destroy them or not. That's what Jonah was doing now. So Jonah built his booth, his shelter. He might have had, it might have had 3 sides, and it really wasn't much because it was an arid mountain, so there wasn't much vegetation there. But he built his shelter and he sat there. And let's see what happened in verse 6. And the Lord God prepared a gourd. And made it to come up over Jonah, that it might be a shadow over his head, to deliver him from his grief. So Jonah was exceeding glad of the gourd. So what does this mean? What's a gourd? A plant. It's a plant. Tends to have big leaves. And the gourd is sort of a fruit, like, it's like a fruit, and it grows on the plant, on the vine. And it grew quickly. Now, most of the time, do gourds grow quickly? No. Usually, they're not fast growing, but God has that power. And so, it sprang up quickly. So Jonah had his shelter, and when he woke up one morning, this gourd plant had sprung up overnight, and it gave him shade to block the sun. The sun was very hot. And it was dry there, so he was happy about that. Was he a little bit happy? He was right? Was he just a little bit happy? No. He was exceeding glad. Now sometimes I see the characters in the Bible, and I think they must be bipolar or something. At first he'd been so furious and angry that he went out to Saul, and he built his shelter and he sat there so he could be angry. And then the next day he saw this plant, and now he's thrilled. Now he's overjoyed and very happy. He says, hooray! And I believe he knew that God had made it. And maybe in his mind he's starting to wonder if he was right. Yay, maybe I was right. I'm sitting here. It's a sign from God. He really is going to destroy them. Yay! I was right. He's on my side. So this is what was going through Jonah's mind. He was thrilled. And he's watching to see it happen. So what happens next? In verse 7. But God prepared a worm when morning rose the next day, and it smote the gourd that it withered. So now it was dead. And Jonah had sat under the gourd all day. He was excited. He was in a good mood. He couldn't wait. He went to sleep. The next day, he woke up. And the gourd had withered. Then what happened? came to pass when the sun did arise, God prepared a vehement east wind. And the sun beat upon the head of Jonah, that he fainted. It was so hot that he fainted, and wished in himself to die. It said, it is better for me to die than to live. Yes, again. This is the third time he said this. Remember, the first time was on the boat. He said, kick me out. Let me die. I'll die before I pray and submit to God. Then, as he's drowning, he prays. And God saved his life. And said, go preach. So he said, oh, okay, I'll go preach. And he preached destruction and death. Destruction and death was going to happen. And then when it didn't, they repented. God withheld his punishment. And he said, God, just kill me now. I'm done with this. Just kill me now. And so then he sat in his anger. And now, remember, he's sitting on the east side of the city. Get a mental picture of this. Here's the city. He's on the east side, sitting there, and the wind is blowing from where? From the east. So this hot wind is blowing from the east. And where's the sunrise? In the east. So here's the sun coming up, wind blowing from the east, and it's blowing, and the sun is shining on him. And it's a hot wind. And he had heat exhaustion. And we remember the previous day he had been happy. He was overjoyed. He was excited. And today he was ready to die. Just kill me, I'm done. As we sit here today, right, we're laughing at it. We're thinking, he's stupid, right? This is dumb. He's an idiot. We do the same thing. So today we come to church, we're happy. Tomorrow, something happens. Oh man, and we complain. We have a bad attitude. Wednesday we go to church. Oh, now we're happy. Yay. Thursday, we're angry again. We're grouchy again. So do we do this? You say, oh, come on. You're joking, but be careful because you do the same thing. So Jonah says, I'm fed up. I've had enough. Just kill me now. And he did pray. He prayed and said, God, it is better for me to die than to live. I'm done with this. And God spoke to him. Now remember, Jonah was special. There aren't many people that God speaks to. Very few. Jonah was one that God spoke to. He heard the voice of God speaking to him. And what did God say to him? In verse 9. Jonah was a negative person. And God said to Jonah, "Are you all right? Doest thou well to be angry with the gourd? Is this right? Is this appropriate? For you to be angry because of this gourd? Is this right?" And Jonah sitting there with the sun beating down on him, he was furious. And God says, "Is that right?" And he says, "Yes. Yes, I am doing right. It's right for me to be angry, even unto death, for a plant. Over a plant? This is dumb. Over a plant. Yes, God. I have a right to be angry. It's my right." Have you ever seen that sign? Ever seen that attitude? It's my right. I have a right to do this. Is that true? And it's funny, just recently, I was involved with some basketball players all over the Kansas City, St. Louis area. And just recently, there was one guy who was making comments and said, "I'll join your team, fine, but I have to have the number that I want. If I don't have that, I'll quit." And I said, "Okay, go ahead. Quit. I'm not going to do that. Bye-bye." I had no patience with that, sorry. Well, it's my right. If you don't give me what I want, I'm gone. There's the door. See ya. And I've seen Christians do the same thing. I have to do it my way. If it's not done my way, I'm out of here. That's fine. Goodbye. So I believe we should have different opinions. I'll use my wife as an example. Yesterday, we were out doing stuff, and my son was playing his games, and then we were outside, and it was a beautiful day. My wife said, "No, it's cold, I'm freezing." "No, it's not. It's nice outside." "No, I'm freezing. It's too cold." "No, it's not." She said, "Oh, that's your opinion." I said, "Right, that's my opinion. And your opinion is that it's freezing. My opinion is that it's nice. So we can have different opinions, right?" So, what's your favorite temperature? Cold? Hot? Cold? We vary. We have different opinions. The color of the carpet. How many of you like that? Some people say yes, some no, some I don't care. We have different opinions. And that's good. God made us with different opinions. That's beautiful. And really, we should support each other and work together. God can use us to make wise decisions. That's a beautiful thing. But when it requires if we have to do it my way, then God is not pleased with that. And some of you have seen my style of leadership. I made you vote. I tend to follow whatever the vote is, because sometimes the vote is against me. I accept that. Well, I fight for it. It's not worth it. Not like Jonah, who says, yes, I have the right to be angry because of this plan. Yes, I do have the right. Like a few weeks ago, God asked Jonah, is it right for you to be angry? And Jonah says, yes. I have a right to be angry. Be careful. Especially those of you with strong personalities and strong opinions. Be careful in your leadership. Why? Because we have the body of Christ, and it's not just one person. We have to work together. Who's in charge? Who's in charge? Has to be God. It has to be God. If God's not in charge, it's worthless. And I've seen churches and pastors who just take over. I've seen churches where pastors just take control and people leave. So, is it right? So again, God speaks to Jonah and says, then said the Lord, thou hast had pity on the gourd, which for the which thou hast not labored, neither madest it grow, which came up in a night and perished in a night. It only lasted for one day. But you cared that much about that plant? Jonah says, yes, I cared. I'm about to die because of that plant. Because he was willing to die for that plant. He says, yes, yes. Now, he does have a good point. When you sum it all up in chapter 4, verse 11. Before we read this, hold on, don't read it yet. Some people think that Jonah had a sad ending or a bad ending to the story. Many people say that. I'll explain why they think that. But verse 11, in my opinion, is one of the most beautiful verses in this story. Why? We'll see when we read that together. $120,000. Is that right? 60, what? 6,000 what? No. No. 200,000? No. 120,000 people? 120,000 what? Stop reading now and watch while I sign it. Ready? First, you have to understand the point. So God speaks to Jonah and says, you really cared about that plan, right? You didn't work for it, you didn't do anything for it, it only lasted one day and it was gone. But you cherished that plan. And should I not spare Nineveh, that great city? Now hold on. Who made Nineveh? God did. Did the people have souls? Yes, they did. Were they sinners? Oh, yes, they were sinners. But God says they're my sinners. They're my people. I want them. I desire to take, and I care for them. More than a stupid plan. And more than an angry prophet. I care more for their hearts than for your angry face and attitude. God says, this city is beautiful. They're lost, yes. They're wicked, but I want them. I want to see them change. I desire them. Now, in the Old Testament, before the time of Jesus, in the Old Testament, we don't have many examples of Gentiles. Gentiles who acknowledged God. Very few. Nebuchadnezzar was one. And Darius, possibly. But there were a few Gentiles who accepted God as their God. But this was a whole city. Now, let's talk about numbers. 6 score. How much is a score? How much is a score? 20. Score means 20. 6 times 20 is 120. 120,000. Now, it's interesting that this English translation here, in Hebrew, it's a different number, completely different number. 2 times 10, or 2 tens, 12 plus 10. And the word here for 1,000 is myriad. which is 10,000. So 12 times 10,000, 120,000. Same thing, yes. But translated differently. Anyway, that's interesting. So the question is, 120,000 what? 120,000 what? People. And he doesn't stop. Keep reading. People who what? Cannot discern. What? Between their right hand and their left hand. Who's he talking about? Who doesn't know their right? Who doesn't know right from wrong? People who are innocent. Children. We're talking about children here. $120,000 children in that city of Nineveh. And God wanted those children God didn't want to see those children lost and destroyed. He was ready to destroy the city. And he was weeping. He didn't want to destroy the city. He said, I don't want to. Jonah, go preach to them. Go preach to them. I care about those people. Go preach to them. Jonah said, no, I'm not going to preach to them. I'm going to go away. No, you have to go preach. Go preach to them. And God's plan was for the whale. Why? What? Or the fish. Why the fish? For Jonah? No, it wasn't for Jonah. This whole story is not about Jonah. The story is about the city. Jonah's saying, God's saying, I care about those people so much. I want you to go preach to them. And Jonah came up on land and God said, go preach. Jonah said, fine, okay. I'll go preach. So he went and preached that they were going to be destroyed. Blah, blah, blah. And when they were saved, he said, God, I knew it. And God said, yay, hooray. Those people have repented. They want to have a relationship with me. Hooray. Jonah, you're an idiot. Those people I care about. Don't you understand? My message is of love and mercy. And much cattle. Yeah, I like that. He says, I don't want to destroy the innocent. Do babies know their right from their left? No, that's what he's talking about. They don't know right from wrong. Adults know right from wrong. Remember? When Jonah preached, he said, you're all wicked, you're all wicked. And he said, yes, we know, we're wicked. We know we are. And they repented. 120,000 children, though, didn't know. So now they have a chance. So the application for today is, number one, do not let your circumstances determine your attitude. Many times, when good things happen, we're happy. When bad things happen, we're depressed, we're angry. That's what happened to Jonah. The plant came up, he was happy. It died, he was upset. He was on a roller coaster. If you do that, your life will be a mess, and I see it happen. Some of you are struggling with this. You're on the roller coaster. You're depressed, you're excited. You're depressed, you're excited. And some of you come to me and you talk about how terrible your life is, and the next service you're so happy. And the next service you're depressed. Your situation should not determine your attitude. Set your mind on, I will love God. And that will make the decision that you are going to be happy. That I can accept whatever God does with my life. Paul wrote that I have learned, whatever my situation is, to be satisfied. I accept it. Okay, God, I accept that. It's okay with me. Paul said, I know whether I am in the depths or at the heights. I know how to be rich. I know how to be poor. I know how to be sick. I know how to be healthy. I've experienced all those ups and downs. And I've learned to be satisfied. With God's plan. That's number one. Number two, do not be angry when God is at work. And sometimes things don't happen the way we want. But God can use that to say, okay, God, I'm going to follow your plan. I had a person recently come to talk to me, and we were talking about various topics in the Bible. And the person asked me, Mark, I'm really struggling with the book of Job. How can God love Job and still allow him to experience these terrible things? I don't think God really loved Job. And that's why I don't believe the Bible. And I've shared this story before. I'll share it again. I steal these stories, this is not really my story. I stole this one. One time there was a farmer who had a horse, a really good horse. He used this horse for many years. And one day the horse ran away. And the neighbor came to him and said, that was bad luck. The horse ran away. What are you going to do now? He said, well, good luck or bad luck, I don't know. A few days later, the horse came back. And another horse was with it. A wild horse was following it. Oh, that was pretty cool. And so he got all the horses that followed him and said, oh, well, the neighbor said that was good luck. You have all these other horses now that followed your horse home. Farmer said, I don't know if it was good luck or bad luck. A few days later, the farmer's son decided to go and tame one of the horses. And he fell off the horse and broke his leg. And the neighbor said, I told you that was bad luck. Bad luck, and your son now your son's broken his leg. And the farmer said, well, it might be good luck or bad luck. I don't know which. A few days later, a gangster showed up. He said, give me all your sons. I want all your sons. You've got a broken leg. I don't want you. And so he left the farmer's son, and the neighbor came out and said, oh, that's such good luck that he broke his leg. And the farmer said, good luck, bad luck, I don't know. So you've seen this story before, right? You understand. Why be angry with God? I've seen people who were Christians who said, I don't want to have anything to do with God. God killed my baby. And I'm done with God. I don't believe in God anymore because this situation happened. I've seen that. Why do bad things happen? I don't know. I'm not God. Good luck or bad luck? Who knows? Why not trust in Him? Has God ever failed you? Never. You're still alive. You still have opportunities. You might have had some bad experiences. Did God use those? Maybe right now you're having a bad experience. Right this minute, you're struggling with something. And you're angry. Like Jonah. Third, God was merciful to you. So you've experienced God's mercy. How many of you can say you've experienced God's mercy? Right? God's been merciful to you. Of course He has. So why don't we have mercy on other people? Instead, we hold grudges against them. We're suspicious of them. God has mercy on us, we should have mercy on them. But Mark, I don't like them. Jonah didn't like the people of Nineveh. But God worked in their lives. So let God work. Don't try to take over. Let God work. And if they don't respond, still let God take care of it. I'm going to close with some important reminders from the book of Jonah. Maybe not. Would you mind advancing that to the next slide? Is it frozen? There's just one more. Okay. This is so important for your life. The 4 points that we talked about. How God works in your heart. Remember why you're in the situation you're in. You're never too far away from God. Only God has the power to raise you up. And help comes from humility. That's so important. And if there's one outline you could make in the book of Jonah, this is it. If there was only one, and you forget everything else from the book of Jonah, remember this. This is key. When you're struggling, when you feel frustrated and angry with God, or you know you're far away from God, remember this. It requires humility and confession. And being willing to say, okay, God, I messed up. Help me again. How many of you need this? I need it. So I encourage you to remember. Let's close with prayer. Our Father in heaven, as we study your word, we know that you love us. We know that you have mercy. And we thank you. Thank you for taking care of us. And for caring for Nineveh. That you loved their children. I pray that you will work in our hearts and give us the hearts of children, that we can have simple faith in you. Help us to know what you want us to do. We know that you want us to do some things. We know that you want us to be humble. Help us to be humble. And to lower ourselves and put others first. To not think about my ways, my needs. That's pride. Teach us your ways, God. We pray in Jesus' name.